The Flash is a new DC movie. So this movie, The Flash, is one of the best movies I have ever seen in my entire life. It is so good. It is one of the best superhero movies of all time. I'm a huge fan of Ezra Miller. He's a great actor. He's a nerd. He really gets into the character in all the franchises that he's in. This movie was directed by visionary director Andy Muschietti, who directed It by Stephen King and It Chapter 2, which were incredibly successful horror movies. And now he's directing a big action DC movie. He's also going to direct the upcoming movie Batman the Brave and the Bold under James Gunn's new supervision of the new DCU. James Gunn is now the co-CEO of DC Comics, or DC Studios. So, in this movie, Ezra Miller plays the Flash. He can run very, very fast. In fact, he can run so fast that time basically slows down for him. And so the movie is very stylistic, very funny. This is one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. I laughed more out loud during this movie more than any other movie I've ever seen. That tells you how funny this movie. This movie is very, very funny. It is hilarious. Every single joke that they had hit for me. It was very funny, but it's also very serious at times, and the humor and comedy does not undercut the seriousness of the situations. So, at the very beginning of the movie, when the Flash first uses his Speed Force, my jaw hit the floor. I was amazed. The special effects and the way they portray the Flash running, it was like unlike anything I've ever seen in my entire life. It was amazing. And so basically what the deal is if you've seen the other movies in the DCEU, the Flash, Barry Allen, when he was young, his mother was unfortunately killed, and we don't really learn why or how or anything, which is very bizarre. But for some reason, his father gets blamed for it. He gets framed for it. And he goes to jail for the murder of his mother. And he knows that his father did not do it. So he decides to work in a crime lab so he can basically prove the innocence of his father. And that's basically what the whole movie's about. And he's in love with this girl named Iris West. And basically, one night, he's really depressed, and he's running really, really fast. He goes into the Chrono Bowl, and he realizes he can go so fast that he can turn back time. Okay, at the beginning of the movie, it starts out with Barry Allen goes to a cafe or coffee shop or whatever, and he asks the guy to make him the sandwich the way he likes it. And the guy's very, very slow. He's like, come on, I need food, or whatever. But then Jeremy Irons' Alfred calls Barry Allen and says, hey, Batman is doing some stuff. I need your help. So he says he's basically the janitor of the Justice League, which is pretty funny. And so there's like this Falcone's gang people are stealing something, and it's like right out of the comics. And Batman, Ben Affleck, is in pursuit of these bad guys, and it's an incredible, amazing action scene. The suit that they give Ben Affleck Batman in this is perfect. It's blue, my favorite color, blue and gray, sort of navy-ish, and it looks like it came right out of a comic book. He goes to a hospital that gets blown up, and then there's a bunch of babies at the top floor, and the babies start falling, and he's like, oh my god, it's a baby shower. I thought that was really funny. Really, really funny. And so it's like really intense. You don't know what's about to happen. Are all these babies about to die? It's very serious. And then he starts running. He's running so fast. He's like defying the laws of gravity or whatever. He's running up the side of the building, and you think he's going to go save a baby, but instead he pushes the baby away and goes to the vending machine that's falling because he has to get the caloric intake in order to use his powers, which is weird. And so he eats. Then he's able to do business as usual. And then he saves all the babies, saves the day, and then by the time he gets back just in time to get his sandwich. So that's how the movie starts. So Barry Allen decides to go back in time and save his mother. So he goes and does that. But then, just like Ben Affleck, Batman told him, you have to be careful because you can mess things up. And basically, he does it, and then he gets to a world where his mom didn't die, which is like, he's like trying so hard to hold it together. He's seeing his mom alive, and it's crazy. But then he sees that the other version of him, Barry 2, I'll call him that, is 18 years old, around like something like that. He is the younger version of him. He is way different because he's more annoying because his mother didn't die. So he's had his mother his whole life. And so basically they start working together. They realize that they need to go because the day that he travels back to is the day he got his powers. So it's sort of like an origin story within the movie. They go back to the lab where it's very bizarre. It's like the way he got his powers is lightning struck him through a bunch of chemicals or something. And it's very weird. And they go and that happens, but it results in Barry 1 losing his powers and his tooth. And so now Barry 1 can't go fast, but Barry 2 can. And they're in this apartment. It's really funny because, so in the movie, Michael J. Fox is the star of Footloose, and Kevin Bacon is the star of Top Gun, which is freaking hilarious. So, also, they realize, since Barry messed up the whole world through his time travel, Michael Shannon as General Zod comes to Earth, just like in Man of Steel. And, they're freaking out. They're like, there's no metahumans. There's no superheroes. So he's like, I'm going to look up all the Justice League members. And they don't exist. And so he's like, the only thing that they could find, they're looking up, and he's talking about Batman, and then the girl's like, oh, I know Batman. I used to see him on the news all the time. So they're like, take us to Batman. So they go to Batman, Bruce Wayne's mansion, and then we see Michael Keaton with very, very long gray hair. He basically does a great job of explaining the multiverse with spaghetti, which is really funny as well. And then, of course, Barry 2 is eating the spaghetti because he's got to get the caloric intake. But, and so when Barry 2 gets his powers, he doesn't really understand it. So he ends up going so fast that the friction heats up his clothes and catches them on fire, and he becomes naked. He also, there's this thing where he can phase through the walls, which is really, really funny and cool. And so they go to Michael Keaton's house, and Michael Keaton has all these bat suits, and he has the Batwing and the Batmobile and all the tech and stuff. And so Michael Keaton decides to help Barry Allen, the Flash, go hunt down the metahuman Superman. So they break into this high security prison basically, and they find Sasha Calle, Supergirl, who's emaciated and she's been just trapped. And once she gets free, she's incredibly powerful. And Sasha Calle does a great job as Supergirl. Michael Keaton does amazing as Batman. There's a third act battle that is insane, where they have to keep going back in time to make it work because people keep dying. And Barry 2 is like, no, nobody dies. And then the two Barrys come together and he says, let's go. And the other one's like, what do you mean, let's go? And then they say, let's go, Barbie. And then they're like, let's go, Barbie, let's go. And I thought that was really funny that they did that in that scene.